clearly you don't have what it takes to handle those conversations without things falling apart. So trust a professional to moderate those conversations. We will be able to ask you the right questions so that you can articulate, what your concerns are in a way that your partner understands it. You can also hear from your partner, and then both of you agree on what the common grounds will be going forward. Okay, so that this kind of thing doesn't happen again. For now, that is what I would say.
On that case,
unless you want to bring out
on that case, yeah. Oh no, that's all. Again, like I said, when I saw it, I was a bit weak because it just seemed like there was a lot that was going on. Her reaction, I think, was
so there's a whole lot.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
And they need to invite us into those details to be able to speak to them. Do you understand? So that's why I just left it at this level of how can I? What was that question? How can you help me fix this? Right. So to fix it is just what I have said. But if you people want to really address issues from the roots, then there's a whole longer conversation that needs to be had, and so I said they need to speak with a counselor or therapist.
Because what I saw from that was a really hyper emotional reaction to something that could have been, I don't know, better handled. I mean, one would say better handled, but at the same time, you want to put yourself in the shoes of someone who says, I have been dealing with this for a long time, right? But we'll just leave it at that one for now, seeing as we don't have a lot of information to work with. And then we'll get into, sort of like how we can continue from here on out. And you mentioned, I think you mentioned, did I hear you mention statistics or something of the sort? I want to get into some of those figures. Apparently, out of a report from a website called divorce.com shows that out of 26 countries, Nigeria has the 11th highest divorce rate. And the report showed that women in sub-Saharan Africa, especially in Nigeria, are more actively involved in filing for divorces compared to men. This report claimed that Nigeria's divorce rate reached 2.9% in 2023 based on available data on marriage and divorce, which translates to 1.8% divorces per 1,000 people in the same year. Let's just let those statistics simmer a little bit. I need to go on a quick break. When I come back, the conversation continues.
Okay. There's something about opening a teaser's bottle that just changes the vibe. It's not just a drink, it's a portal to good times. Discover Teasers, the true ready-to-drink sparkling cocktail that brings fun, adventure, and freshness to every sip. Embrace the now and savor every drop. Whether you're hanging out with friends, watching the sunset, or just unwinding after a long day, Teasers can be your companion. Grab a teaser and let the good times roll. Enjoy responsibly. Teasers is for those 18 and older. Teasers, the fun never ends.
Welcome back to your number one talk, news, and sports station. This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
All right, we're back, and I was just coming off some statistics, some divorce rates, which is part of the reason why we're having this conversation. Again, it says Nigeria ranked 11th out of 26 countries with the highest divorce rate. And a lot of this stems from conflicts that we see happening, some of which can be resolved but are not resolved, and they just get out of hand. So just see if we can give a little bit more information around that. Yes, so yes, 11th out of 26. And those are some scary figures if you ask me. There was some other information that I was looking at that from a global perspective, I think especially from the West, there was some information saying about 70% of unmarried couples break up within the first year. Or first marriages have a 40% chance of divorce, with subsequent marriages having an even higher chance of failure. And the truth is that if we're going to address this thing in any way, to avoid becoming part of this grim statistics, it is so important that we learn how to effectively resolve conflict in our relationships and then leading up to marriages as well. And so we're going to be looking at some of the things that do translate to conflict in relationships and marriages, and then hopefully we can get to conflict resolution with Coach M today. So thank you so much, Coach, for staying with us, and let's get into it.
Okay, yeah, sincerely, conflict. The topic on conflict resolution and management in relationships is a very big one. It's a broad one, and it's very critical. It's very, very important because, like you said, it's because people are not able to resolve these conflicts that we have all of those statistics on divorce and all of that. But if I should just get right to sharing a few things, many times, not even many times, we like to check the foundations always. Right. So when I mean the foundations, I'm talking about, you know me, I've been here a couple of times. I always like to question, how did all of this start in the first place? There are so many relationships and marriages that were brokered under the wrong premises, under the, what I call faulty foundation, So somebody who gets married just simply because I need to leave my father's house, for example. I just need to be married. Such a person would accommodate and say yes to anybody who shows up and says, I like you, I want to marry you, because ultimately she just wants to leave her father's house, or the one who says, pressure, time is running out, or I need to, I need to quickly. So, there are so many things I don't even want to get into now, but once the foundation is wrong, it's a predictor that these people are going to have serious issues. All right. Now, there are people who get in with the wrong reasons, but are fortunate enough to have partners who have sufficient emotional maturity to
tide both of them over.
Exactly. So that's a great one. But even at that, you see that one with the higher emotional maturity, many times is going to be drained and pulled down by this one who is lacking in it. Until such a person is able to grow and get to the point where they can relate on the same level. But basically, what I'm saying is people need to check their foundations, all right? And by that, I'm saying, what is the reason you are even getting into this relationship, all right? What is it based on? Have you guys had conversations that reveal what your true value systems are? Have you guys had conversations that shows that you are on the same page in resolving conflict? So, for example, there are people who believe that when you wrong them, they need to go tit for tat. In other words, do me, I do you. There are people who that is their go-to formula. It's only after we have been vengeful that we can now come back to sit and say, let us discuss. Until then, you have done one to me, I'm owing you, I must do it back to you. You see, there are people like that. So if you are a peace-loving person and you're the kind who believes that, if someone wrongs you and you apologize to them, they should forgive. Meanwhile, the other person says, no, if you wrong me, I must wrong you back. That's the only way I forgive. You see, there's going to be a problem. But these are things you find out during what should be the dating stages. Again, I like to let people know that dating, for me, dating is not a relationship. Dating is what determines if that thing you people are having should become a relationship. Dating is what people call talking stage, without any romance and sleeping with each other, of course, where you are able to check and confirm that your values align, that, you can be with this person for the long haul, that this person is a good person, is a kind person, right? So if in the conversations you see that our interpretation of conflict is different, or our responses to it is different, then you would know that we won't, it's going to be a problem. Do you understand? So those are things that should happen before you're even saying, I want to go and marry. You see, but of course, a lot of people don't go through all of that kind of process, and then they just find themselves always fighting. There are people who in their relationship, they cannot talk for 10 minutes without it getting into a fight. 10 minutes every day it happens, and they talk every day and quarrel every day. In fact, they quarrel more than they have peaceful moments, and they go ahead and get married. Is it marriage that would solve that quarrelsome relationship? Then tomorrow inside the marriage they'll start saying that I cannot take it anymore. You should have left since before it became marriage. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So those are examples of the faulty conditions we're talking about, right? People who get into a relationship just out of circumstance. You have been sleeping with each other for a long time, and then suddenly one now says, we're not getting any younger now. I want you to marry me. And then guy man just says, okay, sure. That's sure, I just may bring this topic up again. Do you understand? And then she has moved on with the assurance that he's marrying me. Our guy is not processing that, but somehow with all the pressure and, maybe she has gotten pregnant and she say, okay, now I want to, in quotes, tie him with this one. Then guy man self just think and say, what is this? Make her just marry her. Without any real commitment to her. Just let it not look like I'm not even responsible. In his mind, everything continues as is. But I married this one, keep for house. Right? So those are wrong foundations, because at the end of the day, no matter how you cry or struggle, guy man will still be guy man doing his thing out there. Because in the first place, he didn't want you. He feels like this was compelled, so it's just to strike that requirement on the list. Okay, I'm married and move on. But there's no real commitment there. So those are the faulty conditions I'm referring to. Okay. There are several other factors that lead to these conflicts. Personalities differ. Do you understand? People express things in different ways.
Money problems.
People who of course, now money now. Money is a very key one. Money issues, in the case where if you're already married, in-laws, whether parents, in-laws or siblings, in-laws, there are issues that could come out from there, but when I'm explaining some of these things, sometimes I like to stick to what I call the more like the foundational issue or the. So, for example, if somebody is properly emotionally developed, you would be able to respond and handle people who are toxic around you. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. So the problem there will not just be that, my in-law spoke to me like this, so I did like that. The issue is your in-law spoke like that because that is the extent to which they know, but you who know better are able to moderate that situation, and it doesn't lead to crisis.
Yeah.
You see? So ultimately, I want to deal with the issues that affect the individual's ability to cope or handle conflict, not just the examples, not just the many examples.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I was talking about those foundational issues, and then talking about things like upbringing, family of origin, because people need to understand that they pick a lot of references in their lives from their families of origin to a very large extent. Something about your perspective, your worldview to life stems from what you saw your parents do, what you saw around where you grew up, what was obtainable there. If you grew up in a place where it was violence, people only spoke with fight. Let the stronger person win. The person who decides, the person that is right is the one that can beat up the other one. People who grow up like that, that is how they are going to always approach misunderstanding.
Yeah.
You see, people who grew up in places where they were always yelling at each other at the top of their voice, that is what they would always do when they are offended or when they feel triggered. They will yell, right? Now, what they don't know is that these are things that were subconsciously programmed. And if people can take time to go back and think about why they respond the way they respond to situations, they may just see that, this was how my father used to do it. This was how my mother used to do it. You see? And that is now playing out in their own lives. With that realization, now lets you know that I need to work on this area. I need to find other ways to deal with an issue without raising my voice. You see? So those are the foundational issues that cause conflicts. And then before we go into more of the behavioral ones and all of that. But ultimately, people need to understand that conflicts are not always bad in themselves. Because what happens with conflict is that it is highlighting those areas where you're different. It's highlighting those areas where your values seem to have been contravened, or, it's just highlighting those areas that need to be fixed. So with the proper mindset and with the proper maturity, conflict would not always degenerate to, or rather misunderstanding, let me put it like that, will not always degenerate to conflict to the extent where you are name calling, you're doing all of those terrible things, you're raising your hands on each other, or you are going out of the house. It won't always get to that.
Yeah.
Why? Because both of you understand that this disagreement here is highlighting a central point that we both need to address.
Okay.
Yeah. And okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So a quick one. So there is such a thing as healthy conflict, if
Oh, yes.
you call it that. Okay. So
Oh, yes.
because some people are of the opinion that for you to be said to be in a great relationship or a great marriage, it has to be free of conflict. And I've seen some things, that we see these things on social media sometimes and we're like, really, is it true? I remember an instance where, there was this couple that had been together for so many years, and someone asked the man, he says, how is it that you've been able to stay together and we've been happy together for this long? And the man's response was, I learned to not see my wife's I learned to not take my wife's, how did he put it now? When my wife does something to me, I learned to not see it as though she's doing it intentionally to hurt me. I learned to see it as though she doesn't want to hurt me. It's just something that she's doing. Does she want to hurt me with it? No, but it's just something that she's doing. And so I saw that sometime. I'm like, is it possible? Is it actually possible to go through life for so many years with somebody and not have conflict? Or was that the case? Was it a case of, yes, indeed, we had issues, but my approach, the approach I chose to take as the husband in this matter was anything that my wife did to me, I did not see it as though she did it to hurt me. She could have done it from a place of misunderstanding. But if I see it as she did it to hurt me, then I will react as though, why are you trying to hurt me? And then it will devolve into some kind of conflict that it is not supposed to be. And so, the fact that they had spent so many years together was not because they were free of conflict. It's because the man chose to address the conflict in a particular way. And I had to wonder when I saw that. I'm like, what was the woman's response to her husband when he did something wrong to her? Was it the same? Or was it just a case of the man saying, no matter what, I will be the bigger person in this relationship? Is there even such a thing as a bigger person in a relationship?
Well, there's such a thing as choosing to be the healthier person in the relationship. I don't
Not
know
the
about
bigger.
I don't know about this.
Okay.
Okay. But there's such a thing about being the bigger. So I was 17 years old when I started to learn about love and relationships and stuff. And I remember vividly saying to myself then that the woman I will marry, I have forgiven her in advance of whatever she's going to do. I said that as a teenager, yeah. And it came from a place of understanding.
Coach M? Okay. A slight glitch there, a network issue. But I'm sure he will join us any second now. Well, the phone lines are open. Don't let Coach and I get carried away in this. We are talking about dealing with conflict in relationship, and Coach has taken it from the point of, first and foremost, the foundation, before we even get to understanding what these conflicts are and how to deal with them. I guess for some people, they may not even understand that what they are doing is or what's going on within their space is conflict. For some people, they might not get that. So we will get to what these common conflicts are in relationships at some point. But Coach M is back now. Hi, Coach. Can you hear me? Okay. Are you muted? Seem to be having a problem with the audio. Can you hear me, Coach? Okay, Coach seems to hear me. to be hearing me, but then I can't hear him. All right, we'll fix that in a little bit. But I mean, the conversation is on. Please do well to join us. It's 0700 951 0000 or 0809 597 4869. And on WhatsApp, it's 0809 993 0137. We started by sharing an experience that someone had that, will kind of make you wonder, is it an emotional thing driving the responses when it comes to women compared to logic when it comes to men? I've also seen or heard it being said that when it comes to men cheating, for example, if a man decides that he's not happy with what's going on in the house, he can go ahead and he cheats, and it's just from logical place. His emotions were not in it. But otherwise, comparatively speaking, when a woman does it, it means her heart was in it, because when a woman takes such a decision, she takes it emotionally. And so you have situations where when it comes down to disagreements in relationships or in marriages, you then start to adjudge their responses and their behaviors based on some of these two what they call it now, criteria. But Coach M is saying there's a lot more to it, and for the most part, what you have are what you want to look at for a start are the foundational issues that led to this person wanting to be in a relationship in the first place. And he's back now, so let's just get into, if the time will allow us, of course, get into some of these common conflicts, because some people, I think, for them, because of their foundational where they're coming from foundationally, may not even realize that what's happening with them is a conflict sort of situation. They just think it's normal, and why should you have a problem with it? So, Coach M, let's let you get back in on the conversation.
Yes, can you hear me now, please?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Where did I leave off?
You were telling us about your amazing decision you took when you were 17.
Oh yeah, okay. So I was saying that I said to myself that the lady I was going to get married to, that I have forgiven her in advance. And I said that because I know that with the level of knowledge and insight I had, I won't marry a person who is going to be a disaster to me. I will take my time. I will understand certain basic things. We would relate on the same wavelength. We would have the same values. All right. So it means that if this person does something I find hurtful, it's not because they have intentionally said, I want to go out of my way to deal with you. It's because there is something that perhaps is maybe I'm lacking in their, how do I put this now? So maybe it's a trauma thing. Maybe it's a behavior thing. Maybe it's an expression thing. Maybe it's a misinterpretation thing. But I know that fundamentally, she would not go allowed to say, I want to hurt you. So if she hurts me, I will forgive her. Now, me taking that stance was to prepare my mind ahead of time that when issues come up, I should be ready to initiate peace, right? So I'm only giving that example because of that person you said that says they want to be the bigger person in the relationship. I will initiate. Yeah, so I'm saying that there's a level of emotional maturity where you tell yourself that I'm not going to respond to the situation in the same energy that it comes. I will choose my response. I will not react to it. I will choose my response so that it's coming from a place of wholesomeness and then seeking to fix the issue rather than to escalate the issue. Do you get it?
Yes, I do. Someone is disagreeing with you, though. Will from Mexico Street says, bro, not women of these days. Even if you forgive them in advance, they will offend you in advance.
Where are you marrying your own from now? Do you understand? Where are you picking from? Do you get it? Yeah. See, I like to, I hear people tell me this kind of thing, women of these days. Have you met all the women of these days? Are you saying that all the women of these days are ill-mannered and unhealthy? Do you understand what I'm saying? There are still people who would reason like you out there. So if you keep attracting a kind, the question is, what kind of person are you?
Oh dear.
Do you understand? Yeah. I'm serious. People get this thing all the time. Women of these days are this, Gen Zs are this, and I'm like, don't generalize this thing. There are people who are properly brought up. There are people who have sound values. There are people who have, the right principles and who are looking for such qualities in partners. So it's not everybody that is just a provocative person or a stubborn person. There are people who still listen. And I think people should begin to tune their focus and look for the right things and not just every lady out there.
I believe we've taken a session that somewhat targeted that kind of thing, how to make the right choices. But I think we need to come back to that again for the likes of people who are sending these kinds of messages. But let's come back to resolving conflict. Can we touch on common conflicts that we see?
Topics like that, we should even do them regularly.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. Perhaps that will be the next series, because if you need to be talking about resolving conflict, you've mentioned something that is key, and that is what are the foundational issues, right? And if you don't know what the foundational issues are, you might end up going to pick from the wrong sampling of partner every time. And this is whether you're a guy to a woman or a woman to a guy.
All the time.
Yes. So we will come to that. God willing, we will. But let's come back to conflicts. What are the common conflicts that you see in relationship? Perhaps let's put names to them. And I know there are myriad of them, but what are the most common ones that we see so that people can even identify, okay, this is what is going on? Because I think sometimes, you see a couple married or in relationships where communication was never really an issue for them.
Yeah.
Like they start off on this really fantastic note. And then for some reason, it just goes, they can't just seem to get across to each other. What are some of these common triggers that we see in relationships that then devolves into conflict, and then we get into how to resolve them? I don't know if we can get into how to resolve them today, but let's see if we can identify some of the common conflicts.
I doubt we can get to that.
That's fine.
Yet, but
That's fine.
Let me move quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, let me move quickly as possible. So remember, I said first, communication is always like the big deal. First.
What does that
Because
mean? What does that mean? Communication. What does that mean exactly?
Okay.
Let's break it down.
Because let me explain. Yeah. Whatever else is going on in that relationship. First of all, what's a relationship? It is two people connecting. And the vehicle of that connection is communication. Are we good there? So, whatever else is happening in that relationship, what matters is how are we talking about it? How are we interpreting it? Am I saying something that you understand and interpret correctly? Or do I say A and you hear C and then you act out D and then I respond with F? Are you getting what I'm saying? So eventually everything still comes down to communication. Misunderstanding, for example. And this happens a lot maybe when people are speaking over the phone or chatting, and then somebody says, okay, you know what, let's talk later. And the person says that because something just came up they want to really address. The other person on the other end feels like that person said it from a place of annoyance and says, why did you just hang up like that? What do you mean by let's talk later? Is that how we end the conversation? And one person is pissed. Meanwhile, it was just the misinterpretation of what that one said or the way it was said. I don't know if you understand. Time won't allow me to go into the details. But basically, what we say, how we say them, when we say them to a very large extent, and then how it is processed and understood from the other person's end is already grounds for misunderstanding.
Okay.
All right. And then there are people who speak in tones that are attacking. That's how all those kind of generalizations and judgmental tones are tones that will elicit a defensive response. You get it? So when people don't know how to, choose their words and then, now you're always forgetting I told you now you should have done this. That is your judgmental. That person reads it as an attack and it will almost elicit at once,
a defensive
response that will return the same energy. A defensive response.
Okay.
You see, so those are examples of communication issues, right? And then, we talked about money earlier. People's spending habits, people's spending decisions, all right? What people's priorities are. Some people are owing money their partners don't know until the day they are embarrassed. And then the partner starts wondering, what was he saying? Where is that coming from? Why are they arresting you? You say, I did one deal. I ate the money, or it did not work out well. Why didn't you tell me? And then, so there's so many things. Or is it the ones that are sending more money home to their own family members, and it's affecting how they are living as a couple?
So money management.
Money management is a big deal. I like the examples are so many.
Yeah.
Right? Another area we see conflict, this one especially in marriage, is in household chores.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Household chores.
There are men who, I'm telling you, there are men who find it strange that their wives want them to participate in certain things. Okay, honey, could you help me take out the trash? And the man is wondering, where is that one coming from? As what? Did I tell you to come and help me pay the house rent when I was paying the house rent? Can't you do your own? Now, that's coming from mindset issues. Because, because there are people who just believe that certain roles should not cross at all. And the man, all I do is provide money, provide food. Woman, do every other thing.
Take care of the children.
You see? Yeah. So when there are differences in mindsets like that, and the lady, maybe she came from a home where her father even gets into the kitchen and cooks food and can dish food and occasionally cleans the house, and then she's married to this boy who grew up in a house where male children were forbidden from entering the kitchen. They don't even know where matches is kept in the house or where salt is in the kitchen. So, and then you're getting married to that person, and telling him, please, can you help me put water on fire? He will feel insulted. That you people start having issues. Right. So sometimes home chores can be, I remember one time I hosted one conversation with newlyweds, and all the guys seem to agree on this point. Like, bro, imagine say my wife would tell me, say, oh yeah, it's time to eat, come and eat now. Oh, why eat when I want to eat? Which one is come and eat now? And then he takes the food and goes to the parlor. He's sitting there watching the TV, and she says, now there's a dining table in this house. Let's eat on the dining. Dining is where people eat. And the guy is wondering, what's all these ones? Yeah, why are you giving me rules in my own house? You see? So it almost feels like, man who is used to staying up late, watching soccer, watching movies, and then goes to bed at 1 a.m. And then now it is 8 p.m. and wifey says, okay, you know what, let's go to bed. And he's looking at you like, if you want to sleep, go and sleep now. Which one is
Why are you trying to control my life, this woman? Behind this woman, why are you trying to control me?
So exactly, like, I'm married, I'm married you. I didn't say you should control my life. Why you just, so it's shocking. It's like, what's going on here? If you want to sleep, go and sleep now. Or she goes in and then she comes out later, she's frowning. I'm just alone on the bed. When are you coming in? And the guy's like, when I finish what I am doing, I will come inside.
Okay.
Why?
Okay, Coach. Quick break.
I don't know how to
Quick break, and I will come back and delve into a little bit more. Quick break.
But make yours a party that never stops. With Desperados, the beer with a Latin vibe. Vibe out, let loose, and turn the heat all the way up. Because with Desperados, the party is wherever you want it to be.
Grab a Desperados and ignite your party spirit. Desperados, beer with a Latin vibe. Enjoy responsibly. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18.
All right, we are back. I said it was quick, and indeed, it was very quick. Coach M is still on with us, and we are looking. We've gone into some of the common conflicts we see in homes. Let me see if I can take a few messages very quickly, and then we'll get back into it. Also, Francis Namani, watching live from Amagunze in Enugu State, says, "Good evening, Somi, and keep up the good work." Thank you so much, also Francis. Always such a joy to see you join us on our platforms. It's Sunnyville here with this line. He says, majority of the women behave mannerless. What does that mean, Sunnyville? What exactly does that mean? Where is that coming from? We'd like to get some more insight into why you're making that statement. Because when you say mannerless, what is mannerless really? What has she done that is making you tag her that? Because I think some cases when you have this issue of a background or maybe improper ways in which, I say improper, depending on what side you're on, improper ways that, people were trained, especially when it comes to this issue of gender roles and all of that. some men just they can't stand a woman saying, oh, but I want you to do this. Could you do this? For them, that her asking is mannerless. So let's understand where you are coming from with that statement, is Sunnyville, so that we can help dissect it even more. Because I don't know. Coach, you've dealt with couples a lot in this instance. Can you say to any extent that some women are actually that? They just have no manner of approach when it comes to dealing with these issues. Is that what you've seen in the course of some of the work that you've done? Because me, I'm a woman. Let you know that I'm asking him that question because I'm a woman. Because that statement, I'm like, no, let's get into it.
No. You know, when it has to do with behavior, it is neither a male nor female thing. It's not a gender. Behavior is never a gender thing. It's a human thing. So if you say women are mannerless, there are men too that are mannerless. It's not. So people need to grow to the point where we don't use those kind of generalizations. Women are just, men are just. No, it's a human thing. A person who was raised properly will behave properly. Do you understand? It's that simple. Okay, if you take some personality assessments, maybe online, it doesn't check whether you are male or female. Sometimes it's only after you have even gotten the result. It now tells you, okay, enter your email address here, let's get to know you further, are you male or female, just for their own reports. But basically, behavior is not a male thing or a female thing. It's a human thing. And it borders on how people are raised. And how they choose to develop themselves.
Okay.
All right. Some people say women and man will behave rudely. Do you understand that? So I just want to leave it at this level where people should understand that those kind of women are this, men are this. And it has scripture says in Proverbs 22 verse 6, it says, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. Somewhere else again, it says that a good tree, out of the goodness of the tree, produces good fruit. Did you get it? The same thing with a bad tree. It produces bad fruit. So if people are raised well, they will behave well. If they are not raised well, then they will behave unhealthily and in things that are toxic out there. So I want people to understand that so that they don't keep spreading these women are, what was the choice of women are mannerless? No, it's people humans to him, right? Are there not men that behave like that too? So let's leave that conversation there,
okay,
right?
Left.
People should grow.
All right, Coach. There's a particular type of conflict that I see here that maybe we can get into in the next 5 minutes or so. Again, the phone lines are open, people.
All right,
please do call in. And the stream ends in a little bit. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, the stream will end in a little bit. But we'll still have Coach here till about 11:15 or so. So there'll be plenty of time for you to interact with him. If you have questions, you want to ask Coach directly, now is the time. You can call in. We are laying the foundation, if you will, or the premise for the conversation around conflicts in relationships or marriages and how they can be resolved. There's this particular one that I see. It says unmet or unreasonable expectations as a common cause of conflict in relationships. Let me give you a story, Coach.
Oh, yes.
See if you can help put this in perspective. Because when they say, someone has expectations of a relationship or of a marriage, you would expect that there are basic things. Oh, you said I do. For example, if you're talking marriages, you said I do, so I expect that we will be together forever. I expect that when we have issues, we'll be able to work through them. But I know a certain somebody who said at one point in time to his wife, who they were newly married. I think the marriage wasn't up to a year old when he started saying these things. He says, they're having issues, they're having conflicts. And the man says, I've never been married before. So what do you expect? That was his response that he gave for every time there was a conflict and the woman tried to resolve it. He said, your expectations of me are too much. After all, I've never been married before. This is the first time I'm doing this. So temper down on your expectations. Think about that for a minute, Coach. Let me take this call. Hello?
Hello.
All right.
Yes, good evening. Welcome.
How are you?
I'm well. What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
It's been a long time. This is Atese calling from my town.
All right, I say good to have you here.
Yeah.
All right.
Honestly, I like this conversation.
Thank you, sir.
The conversation is so interesting. But the issue is that I just want to say kudos to this my brother because it's not easy. You can't tolerate everything like that, but to him, I'm learning from him now. Because of that one that he said that ever before the marriage, he promised himself that he's going to forgive his wife or whatsoever. It's not easy anyway, but if he is such a person, but he's really encouraging because when I'm listening to him, I feel really encouraging me a lot. Sometimes we do all these things just because of the children. The children and just to keep your family. So that comment that he made, it really touched me. I said, let me just speak it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Coach M, you heard him, right? He's saying kudos to you for taking that decision that you took. Just let's take a few more calls. We'll come back to you. Hello.
All right.
Well, good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
Yeah, my name is Jerry. I'm calling from Dari.
Hi, Jerry.
Yeah, I must really appreciate this topic. Well, your guest is just saying exactly what I've experienced my that early stage of marriage. You know, when I got married, the first thing was serious war. I was asking myself, how did I get myself into all this? So at this time, when I come from work, I just put my clothes, put my shirt on the chair, put my socks, put my shoes on the left. So when I got married and when I saw that, before you know, my wife would tell me, why are you doing all these, come and do this, come and pick up this thing. I said, I married this woman, being called the control me. I don't understand. So that was the whole series of everything. Then the other issues again we have, my wife loves to make up. So every Sunday, I'm this kind of guy, I'm always at church by 6:30. I was with my wife by 5:30. By 6 o'clock already. By 6 o'clock, my wife is still doing makeup. She's still doing makeup. The first Sunday I accepted it. I said, maybe she was something. But the third Sunday, I have to leave her. I go out because of a whole lot of issues. So I think everything's about just tolerance. We are going to our 8 years now next month. I must say we have come to adapt, come to actually say that this is who she is. I'm a very early sleeper. She's a very late. She actually sleeps very, very late. So that's again really caused a lot of confusion. But now I think we've actually balanced up and we come to see how both of us can adapt. I think adaptation in marriage is very key. You need to understand what your partner likes and what the other one is like. You guys are different.
Okay.
So if you are expecting, because marriage, you come with so much expectation. This is how I want my wife to be, this is how I want my husband to be. But when you enter into the whole ball, the whole different thing and so on. So, but the main important thing is that love and respect you have for each other. Then you guys will. I think your guest just said exactly about all this. And most people can't actually understand. That's why you see marriage, when someone gets married 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, they can't just stay together and just break up.
Okay.
So that's the contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you. Okay. All right. Just sharing from his experience, the first year, the changes, the adaptations and everything. And I mean, they're still together and they're still going on strong. And I'm grateful to hear that. And he talked about how just understanding and learning to adapt and keep loving each other are the ways forward. He said you spoke his mind on a number of things. For example, the one of a woman where I married, where they try to control me for my own house, for example. So yes, glad to hear that we are touching on some of those things as people are experiencing them. So I was asking you before we took the calls about unmet or unreasonable expectations as a trigger for conflict in relationships. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I even want to say that, you see, those points are two separate points. Unmet expectations and then unreasonable expectations.
Okay.
Yeah. The ones that are unreasonable, for example, are things that are beyond your control, yet you expect them to happen as though by just wishing you will have it.
Give an example.
Okay? It's unreasonable because a woman believes, okay, let me use a guy.
No, use a woman.
A man believes.
Use a woman, because somebody is here with a message. Why is it only the men that are always expected to prepare themselves on how to handle the excesses of women, take care of them and all that? But why is it not okay when it concerns? Please use a woman. I will come back to that message later.
Okay, so that's fine.
Okay.
So a lady gets into a relationship, into marriage, with the idea or expectation that her husband is going to supply all the joy and peace that she has not experienced in her life yet. That he's going to make her happy all the days of her life. That he is her prince in shiny armor, what she read in novel or watched in cartoon. This is a man who is going through the everyday rigors of traffic in Lagos, for example, and expenses, and he's dealing with all of these things, and a boss who is hounding down his neck and all of that. And you just think that when it comes to you, he will just always be in in a happy mood or things like that. It's an unrealistic expectation. Why? Because you cannot determine the events in a person's life, neither can you determine how that person will respond to those events, to the point that every time he's discussing with you, he's always going to be happy and always going to make you happy. It's unrealistic. So such a person will always be disappointed, because the first day you will ask him for something, or you try to have a conversation and he declines, you feel like, oh, I thought you said you love me. Oh, why are you not? And the man will just start wondering what kind of stress is all this on. Do you understand? So it's an unrealistic expectation. Or those who believe that you're seeing all the red flags now, but you say, let's just marry. When I marry, I will change him. Or he's just behaving like this because he's not married. When we now get married, I will now be able to change his behavior. You cannot change nothing. You see? So it's unrealistic. Because at the end of the day, you're setting yourself up for heartbreak. So that's just an example of unrealistic. When you don't have the power to determine or control anything. You see a man who before he takes any decision, he has to call his mom and say, Mommy, what do you think? Even after you have both discussed and analyzed it and agreed, he will call his mother, and the mother say, no, don't do that one, do this one. You say, okay, he will go with the mother's home without telling you. Then you believe that, don't worry, when we marry like this, I will just draw battle line. It will not change in marriage. So those are unrealistic expectations. Now let me talk about unmet expectations. Unmet expectations are the ones that are reasonable, are the ones that you could do something about. You have talked about it. Both of you have agreed that when we are angry at each other, we will discuss rather than raising our voices, and we will try to focus on the issue. But then now, something happens and the other partner just goes, and then you're trying all your best possible to say, I'm sorry you feel this way, but can we just calm down so we can talk about it? And the guy's not having it, in your mind, but you promised me this. We agreed on this. How come you're behaving differently now? You see, that expectation which was agreed is not being met. Or in some cases, you may be the one defaulting. You thought it was very easy until you started shaking and you said, started displaying in a kind of way. And then now you're angry at yourself that something you said. I mean, I've heard some ladies tell me sometimes, I know my problem is I have how does it say it? My mouth is always running. Before he says one, I've said 10. I just wish I have bad mouth. have pepper body, so it's my fault. Oh my God, see what I've caused for myself. See what I've done. You expected peace in your marriage, but you did not deliver the behavior that will bring peace. It's an unmet expectation. You understand? So they are two different things.
Okay.
But basically, what I tell people is focus on what you can control. To the largest extent, what you can control is you, is your decisions, is your actions, is your interpretation, is your disposition to events and to things that can provoke you. There's something we tell people that nothing means anything except the meaning you give to it. Nothing. So if you choose to say, I will not be offended when offense comes, offense will truly come. Yes, it will test you. But when you remember your resolve that I will not attack my partner, I will speak to the issue. It will help you to moderate the way you choose your words.
Okay.
And then instead of saying things like, have I not told you you're very stupid? You don't know how to talk. You don't know how to talk. See what you're saying. You will tell yourself that instead of doing that, you would say things like, I don't appreciate it when you speak of me in this manner. It makes me feel like you don't accord me the respect I deserve. I would prefer if you said this instead of that. I would prefer if you put it like this instead of that. You are responding from a place of intentional and mature and a determined, response, as against just going off in reaction. Do you get what I'm saying?
So I have something to say on that point, Coach M, because a lot of us have been in these places where things happen and you are not in your right frame of mind, and even though you have resolved that you are not going to see what the other person has done as intentional and all of that, in that place where you are right there and then, you are seeing red, And so what I would say to that one is, of course, we're going to get to this, when we're talking about how to handle it, but I would just say to that one, so that it's not sounding like, this is just talk. This is just
talk.
Yes. In that place where you are, remembering your resolve to be a healthier person sometimes means walking away from that situation. You walk away so that you allow yourself to process and come back to that resolution that you made. If at all you're one of such people that makes resolutions like Coach M, because some men have called and said, I don't know how you do it. Well done, sir. Kudos. But if you're one of such people that make such resolutions, that will be the way to go about it. That will seem practical. Because if you say you want to stay there in that minute, in that time and do this, it's not going to work. So you need to know that even if you were walking away from that situation at that particular point in time, you're walking away so that you can come back and say, yes, this is how we proceed. I think the problem sometimes is when people walk away, they just go. I go back to the story that we told earlier on where, this man went away, and I mean, this is not in any way to say that what the lady did was right at all. But when you go away like that and you just go, no, that's not what we're talking about. Step away, remove yourself so that you can come back and then have that conversation. Okay, Coach M, I need to ask you about this one, and we'll use that to wrap up the conversation around conflict today and see if we can take on any more comments and calls. Sexual compatibility as a source of conflict in relationships. Is this a major one, or is this just one on the side?
Very.
Okay.
It's a mighty one.
Shed light on it, please.
Okay, so when couples talk about sexual issues, it ranges from a number of things. One, libido, one person wanting it more than the other, right? There's the libido part, there's the skill part. One person not able to deliver
on the goods,
the way the partner wants it, right? There is the frequency. One person wants to do this 5 times in a day. The other person is saying, food, you want to kill me, and then so another person believes it should be once in 2 weeks. And I say, what kind of nonsense is that? It should be at least twice every day, morning and night. Before we go out, when we come back, it must happen. So frequency, so I've talked about libido, which is the drive.
Yeah.
Some people feel like their partners, either have too much drive or not enough drive. All right. So somebody with a high libido meeting somebody with a low libido, so the one with the high libido wants to stay there and do like 2, 3, 4, 5 as though I don't know if they do up to 5, but somebody wants to do multiple rounds and the other person says, I'm sorry, don't kill me. This one is okay. Right? So it can be conflict because the guy is like, hey, or the partner with the higher libido feels like, I'm not done yet. Let's go on. And the other one say, please, we continue tomorrow. They don't finish. Right? So that's one. Then I talked about the frequency of it. Some people want to do it more often. I also talked about performance issues, right? Skill. Yeah. And then there are certain other things like hygiene. Some partners don't know that their partners are put off by their lack of proper hygiene. The way they clean and maintain themselves down there.
Down there, that's male and female, yeah?
There especially.
Sometimes when they say down there, all some people hear is the female.
No, it's male and female. Though.
Okay.
Or even there are some people who would prefer that you have your bath before you're coming to rub body against them. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
So a partner who is saying, why do I have to do that? I see the hot now. Let's jump on top bed or chair or kitchen and start doing this thing. And the person is like, no, let's go refresh. You're smelling, you're all sticky and sweaty. I don't want this, right? So those can cause issues sometimes. Then there are those who say, you have to put off the light. That's to only happen in darkness. And the other one is saying, what kind of thing is that one? I want to see what I've eaten.
I want to see what I bought with my money. Rubbish talk.
So that's why I said it is a lot because it just goes on and on.
Okay.
But again, what I said about communication. Communication is the vehicle through which all of these things are addressed. It's not fight, it's not shout, it's not this.
All of them? All of them?
Every issue in relationship.
Okay.
Boils down to communication. Yeah.
All right. So we have dwelt heavily on this first part of the conversation, and I know we definitely will be coming back to continue next week. We want to get into resolution. We've talked about triggers, causes. We want to get into how to resolve them.
Is that in this call or next week?
No, next week. I'm talking about next week for resolution. Definitely next week because it's 11:19 already, and I know that I need to let you go. But I would just leave it for a few more minutes for any calls or any questions to come in. Otherwise, if you feel like we would be rushing you, you can join us again next week. Another thing you can do is send a message to my email to let me know the particulars of your case so that when coach is coming, he's not speaking generally. He can address your case in particular. You want to send an email to somi@nigeriainfo.fm. I take that again. It's somi@nigeriainfo.fm. Do you have an issue in your relationship or your marriage right now and you need a therapist to speak to some of those issues? That's where you can reach me. We will definitely be looking at how to resolve those conflicts next week. But before I let you go, a few messages here. Salma had sent in a message earlier on saying, good evening, Somi and Coach. I like this topic, but thank you for letting us know. I was reading this message earlier on. Let me just wrap it up. This is the one that said, why is it only the men that are always expected to prepare themselves of how to handle the excesses of women, take care of them and all of that? Why is it not okay when it concerns men? Are women not the ones always pushing for gender equality when there is nothing in how both genders are treated? Society, he says, has encouraged women to be promiscuous as a result of excusing their selfish demands and expectations. Why is the society always expecting so much from the male gender alone? I don't believe we said anything in the conversation that alluded to that, but Coach, you want to respond to that? This question came about a minute before it times out. You want to respond to that?
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Speak to that.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, like I said, there was nothing we said in the conversation that alluded to that alone.
Exactly,
so we're treating everything from the point of both genders. And honestly, really and truly, I don't know what your experience has been like, you who sent this message, but it seems like you've been through a lot. We want to be able to check. We want to be able to check your experiences generally. Go back again, look at the foundations and all of that. I wish we can speak to your issue in particular. If at all you want us to do that, you let us know. I have this voice note here. Let's see if we can take it. Coach, just let me bring you back on so that you can catch the voice note. Yes? Okay. Let's do that. Okay.
This is Nigeria Info.